Hello everybody and welcome to Road America for round 5 of the 2018 Lamborghini Super Trofeo Series, part of the IMSA weekend here at beautiful Road America, Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. 17 V10 engined Lamborghini Huracan Evo Super Trofeo cars are ready to go on their warm-up lap, and we've got the whole race live here on IMSA Radio from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. A beautiful circuit in the traditional style. It follows the topography, the rises and falls of the local countryside. It was built here in the 1950s when road racing on the public roads was deemed too dangerous. Action areas at the first corner, very fast right-hander, downhill, left-hander to turn 5, tricky to get the braking right there, and then running into Canada corner. From there it's all uphill to the start line. It's all live next here on IMSA Radio and IMSA TV. And it's going to be Shea Adam and Jeremy Shaw to take you through the 50 minutes of action before the cars come round to the line. Let's have a look at how they have lined up as Jeremy Shaw will run you through the grids.
Round 5 of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo for 2018, as John Hindhoff said, 17 cars on the starting lineup, all exactly the same Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evos, but 4 categories of drivers based upon basically experience. Starting at the back of the field, in the Pro-Am category is Randy Saleri for Wayne Taylor Racing in car number 10. The 8th row of the grid will be Sheena Monk for Wayne Taylor Racing, also in car number 7. And another LB Cup car, these are the least experienced drivers. Car number 88 for US Racetronics will be started by Mark Proto. On row 7 of the grid is another LB Cup contender, car number 21, that is Justin Price for Dream Racing Motorsport. Alongside him, the AM contender, Cameron Castles, in car number 33 for Wayne Taylor Racing. The front row, effectively, for LB Cup, car number 66 on the outside for GMG Racing is Brett Meredith. And on the pole for his very first start in Lamborghini Super Trofeo for PPM, car number 47 is Steve Dunn. Moving on to the 5th row of the grid, 2 AM cars, Martin Barkey in the PPM car number 67 and Brian Thenis for US Racetronics in car number 17. Row 4 of the grid, Ryan Hardwick also in the AM category for Dream Racing Motorsport, and also in AM, Damon Oakey in car number 09 for US Racetronics. Row 3 of the grid is the pole sitter for AM. That'll be Patrick Liddy, youngster from California for P1 Motorsports in car number 5. And then 2 pro cars ahead of him on the grid. Championship leader Corey Lewis in car number 29 for Change Racing. And then onto the 2nd row of the grid, also in pro, Eduardo Piscopo for US Racetronics in car number 50. The Pro-Am pole sitter, 3rd on the grid, car number 71 for P1 Motorsports, is Loris Spinelli. That's his 3rd straight Pro-Am pole. And onto the front row of the grid, 2 pro-class drivers and 2 former series champions as well. In car number 1 on the outside of the front row for Wayne Taylor Racing is Trent Hinman, and on the pole position for the 3rd time in his career and his 2nd in succession for PPM, car number 46 is Shinya Machimi.
17 Lamborghinis getting ready to tackle the 4.048 mile course that is Road America up here in scenic Wisconsin, land of bratwurst, cheese, and a really, really good racetrack. Some beer, Jeremy Shaw also mouths silently to me. I wouldn't know anything about that, Jeremy. Shinya Machimi with a brilliant qualifying performance earlier this morning when track conditions were very different than what they are now. It is hot outside, ladies and gentlemen, and Trent Hinman knows that. Going into this turn 1 will be a dash for the cash between our 2016 and 2017 Pro champions. That's right, both of them back in the series in different cars with different numbers. So it's going to be the true battle of which one of them can come out on top.
And Trent Hinman won both of the races here last year en route to the championship,
when Shinya was not racing. So it's going to be extra elbows out. The year before, I seem to remember Shinya being very much victorious. It's a long climb up a very steep hill as they come out of 14. The final turn on the track, 2 by 2. We have one straggler because there is not a perfect number for 8 rows, so it is 9. Green flag is waving, and we are racing. Great start by Shinny Mashimi to pull well ahead of Trent Hinman. There will be no battle into turn 1 for the overall lead, but now Hinman coming under a bit of pressure from Laura Spinelli and Eduardo Piscopo dealing with Corey Lewis. There's a 3-way battle for second. 4-way. Do they all make it through? Yes, they do. Man, Jeremy, that was close, though. Glad to see that all the Lamborghinis are still in 17 different cars and not a million different pieces.
Eduardo Piscopo around the outside there of Laura Spinelli for 3rd position at turn 3. Laura Spinelli thought about sort of charging down the inside of turn 1, wisely thought the better of it, backed off, and that loss of momentum has cost him a position. So Laura Spinelli started 3rd, now 4th in car number 71.
Piscopo is looking racy early on, though, in that number 50 machine, the slightly blue Lamborghini, as Spinelli goes very deep on his braking, almost doesn't get it slowed down, and Corey Lewis has to bail out of an attempted pass down the inside. Mashimi has been reeled back in, though. Hinman right on his bumper, then Piscopo, then Spinelli, and then Lewis. So if you're watching trackside, that's cars 46, 1, 71, 50, and 29, much quicker than I can even say it.
Down the hill, there's Laura Spinelli, super late on the brakes for turn 8. A little bit too late.
Yeah,
never mind.
That's an experience there, Jeremy. That's somebody being a bit optimistic.
He had 3rd position there briefly, but he's now quite a little bit away behind Eduardo Piscopo, so he's going to have to charge again and try and make up that lost ground that cost him a fair bit of momentum.
Patrick Liddy leading in the AM class in the number 5, and Steve Dunn leading in LB Cup, but all eyes are on the front of the field as 5 cars are battling it out for the top class honors. Now, as Jeremy said, and somebody's off in the kink a little bit further back. There were 4 wheels off. Did they recover? Have to wait and see when the smoke clears, and I mean that literally. If all 17 cars continue around, nobody showing up on timing is being stopped as of yet, so maybe that was just a scary moment for one of our lesser experienced cars in the field. They come through 13 into 14 and come up the hill to complete their first lap, and now getting a replay to see who it was that went wide. Well, it was a black Lamborghini with blue on it, so that means it's likely a Wayne Taylor racing car. It looks maybe 4.
Narrows it down to 4 or 5.
I think it was Cameron Castles because it looked quite a bit further down back the field. Still a scary, scary moment. Damon Oakey has found life, though, and he is charging hard to try and get around Patrick Liddy for the AM category lead. Liddy, who is not in the AM class championship, he's been running in Pro-Am for the first 4 weekends of the year. So he is not invested in the championship. Damon Oakey very much is. He is 7 points behind Ryan Hardwick, who's driving the 2, currently 3rd in that category. This is a battle for points, but also Oakey needs to remember he doesn't need to win the race to come out ahead in the championship.
Yeah, look at the long game here coming into this round. We've had 4 races only this season in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, and the points chases are pretty close between the leading contenders. Corey Lewis and Madison Snow just 2 points ahead of Eduardo Piscopo and Taylor Proto, and Brandon Godovic and Shinya Machimi just 3 points behind them in 3rd position.
So for Corey Lewis, it will be pivotal to try and get around the number 71 Lamborghini, the green machine in front of him, even though that car is running for the Pro-Am class. Lewis will need to dispose of the green car before he can get back up to the blue number 50 of Eduardo Piscopo. But right now, Machini, looking in his mirrors, sees nothing but Trent Hinman, because Trent has gotten the gap back down to within half a second of the lead. They've pulled out just over a second from everybody else. So Piscopo dealing with Spinelli and Machini dealing with Hinman. This is going to be a race-long exhaustion battle for those 2 drivers, at least until we reach the midway point in which the pit window opens. Now, if you've not been with this series before, if you've not seen it, and wondering how they can possibly have 2 drivers, there's a mandatory pit window. When it opens, you have 10 minutes to come in, change drivers. You don't change your tires, you don't do anything else, but you must be on the pit lane for a certain amount of time. If you're running with 1 driver, that time is 102 seconds from pit in to pit out. If you're driving with 2, it's only 99. Race control factors in about a 3-second advantage for knowing the track conditions and how the car is handling. That's why the times are different. For Shinya Mishimi, he will have to make it to that pit window and hand over to Brandon Godovic, and Trent Hinman knows he needs to make a move now on Mishimi because he will be handing over to Jonathan Chicotto when that pit window does come time. And Hinman is looking very racy early on, Jeremy. He wants the lead, and he wants it badly.
He does, but the guy who was the fastest car on the track on that lap was Loris Spinelli in the 4th position, recovering from that mistake on the first lap. He just done the fastest lap of the race, a 2 minutes 7.789 in car number 71. The lap record around here, by the way, the race lap record, is a 206.6. That was set by Shinya Mishimi 2 years ago.
Shinya, who is very, very quick in these cars. He won the championship 2 years ago, driving for Wayne Taylor Racing as it was in the time in that car number 1. Then it was Trent Hinman driving it last year, not by himself, he had a co-driver, but again, car number 1. That has been the one to beat, total pun intended, over the last couple of years. And now, getting Mishimi back in the championship, sharing with Brandon Godovic with a new team. He's flexing his muscles right now, Jeremy, and there have been some races this year that maybe should have gone the way of the 46 that just didn't. Mishimi is doing everything he can now to make sure that that doesn't happen again. That's
right. Shinya's started from the pole the last 2 times he's qualified the cars. Once at Watkins Glen and once here. Didn't go particularly well for him at Watkins Glen, finished way back down the order, but looking to set the record straight here and doing a perfect job at the moment. There's really not much to choose between these top 4 cars.
Well, and at least he didn't go 3 wide through turn 3 like he did at Watkins Glen. That's ultimately what caused the issue at that race.
Yes.
So having clean air ahead and nothing but a beautiful racetrack ahead of him, he knows that all he has to do is keep his head down, and that little rear view mirror that's up to his right, he might just want to break that off and ignore it, because Trent Hinman is a very large presence to be looming in your mirror. He's a guy who knows how to win races. He knows how to win championships as well, and understands that not always do you need to win the race to have good points for the end of the championship. But at this stage in the season, with a dreadful first 2 races at Mid-Ohio, Hinman knows he's on the back foot and has quite a bit of catching up to do. Unfortunately, the car right ahead of him is only 8 points up in the championship. That's a little bit of good news that the championship leader back in 4th place in Pro, and then 2nd place is in 3rd. So we have almost an entire inversion of our Pro Championship points out on track.
Yeah, we do. That's going to make things interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. If Hinman gets around Mishimi, it will be complete inverse. I don't envy you doing all the adding up at the end of the race, Jeremy. Loris Spinelli with a sizable lead over the next in the Pro-Am class. That is because Loris is the pro half of the Pro-Am equation, and Randy Solari, right? Airy, yes. Randy Solari, who is driving the number 10, shares with Stephen McAleer. Stephen is the pro half. He's not in the car. The AM is in the car right now. So it will be a different story when we get the Scotsman back into the number 10. For Loris Spinelli, though, he's got to put his head down and keep putting in the fast times. Half a second behind Eduardo Piscopo. That gap has come out a little bit. It was down to almost nothing a few laps ago. Yeah,
very, very close now. We're coming up to complete lap 4 here in this 50-minute contest. And in team championship, there is a team championship, by the way. There's also a dealer championship. The team championship is led by P1 Motorsports. That's the 4th place car currently. That's Loris Spinelli at the wheel of that car. They've got 45 points to the 44 of Change Racing. That is the car that's running directly behind. That's car number 29, driven at the moment by Corey Lewis.
Mishimi, Hinman, Piscopo, Spinelli, Lewis. Across the line, as I said them. Then we have Patrick Liddy, who's doing a really good job to actually hang on to that pro battle going on ahead of him. He's only 5 seconds, less than 5 seconds, behind that, behind the last of that lead group. That would be Corey Lewis. And he is classified in the AM category. Jeremy, you said he's at University of California, Santa Barbara,
yes.
Was it? A poli-science major, and wants to be a race car driver. And he's doing a very good job of proving that he deserves to play in America's Park of Speed. Steve Dunn, still our leader in LB Cup. He is 6.2 seconds ahead of Brett Meredith, the 2nd place in that class, in the number 66 Lamborghini. Brett Meredith came into the LB Cup at the last round, which was at Watkins Glen, and made quite a loud entrance. Jeremy, he proved that he belongs in this series.
Yeah, he certainly did, but Steve Dunn is doing the same this weekend as well, because he's got the legs of Brett Meredith, and he's got already a 6-second lead in the LB Cup in car number 47 over the 66 of Brett Meredith.
We give a little bit of love to some of the cars a bit further down in the field, and all of a sudden Eduardo Piscopo goes, no, talk about me. He goes the fastest that any car has been thus far, almost 10 minutes into the race, through Sector 1, trying desperately not only to shake off Loris Spinelli behind him, but to catch back up to the bumper of Trent Hinman. Try and put some pressure on that number 1 car so that Trent not only has to look ahead of him to get around Mashimi, but behind him to hold off Piscopo.
This is a good battle for the lead, and it looks like a good lap for Shinya here. He's just pulled out maybe another car length or 2 over Trent Hinman, and as closely matched as these cars are, he'll be grateful for everything he can get. But Loris Spinelli, he's hanging right there in 4th place, and not far back, but only a second or so back down the road from here is Corey Lewis in that car number 29. That is the car that leads the Drivers' Championship, at least in the Pro Division, coming into this weekend. But having won the first 2 races at Mid-Ohio earlier this year, but it's still super tight.
We have 3 Lamborghini Super Trofeo champions fighting it out for the lead of this race right now. Mashimi, who won this championship in 2016. Hinman, who won last year. Oops, as we have a spin from car number 47. That is Steve Dunn. That is our LB Cup leader. Just finished my thought. Eduardo Piscopo, a champion in 2014. So all 3 of them know what it takes. It was turn 14. It was the final turn. He was looking ahead at the number 67 Lamborghini of Martin Barkey in the AM class. He was catching an AM class competitor, has gone off at turn 14 and is off on the grass to driver's right. Steve Dunn, let's see, is he spinning his tires, trying to get a little bit of traction? The Pirellis are good, but they're not as good on grass as they are on tarmacs. We'll have to wait and see if Steve Dunn does manage to recover, or if we need to go to a full course caution to try and help him back out on his way. There goes the number 10 of Randy Solari. So now he's not the last car on track. It is now Steve Dunn. What a shame. He was doing such a great job all weekend.
He really was. I mean, as you say there, hanging on to the back there of Martin Barkey, which was a fine effort. He too, right behind Brian Thenis as well. And Brian Thenis has won this championship, won races in the past, so he knows a lot about how to have a lot of success in these cars.
That sound in the background was Steve Dunn managing to get things going again. Yes, Brian Thenis, who was 3rd in Pro-Am in 2016, 3rd in Am last year, has a lot of experience in the cars. He's won races at Circuit of the Americas, at Watkins Glen. He knows how to get it done, but he's never been able to put it all together for that championship run. He'll be telling Martin Barkey to go away in a less nice way. 37 minutes and 20 seconds thereabouts remaining, and right now Brett Meredith inheriting the lead of LB Cup from that moment from Steve Dunn spinning down at turn 14. Meredith with a very comfortable cushion over the rest of the competition right now. They've all spread themselves out a little bit, and it won't be too terribly long. I think it'll happen before the end of the race, Jeremy, that we get lap traffic coming into play, especially at a track like Road America where it's 4 miles around. You think, well, it's too long for that to really be an issue. It's such a technical track. It's so difficult to get right lap after lap that sometimes the speed differentials and the lap times tend to come into play. And I think we'll be seeing that before the end of the race.
Good well doing. We're still a little ways away from the pit window opening.
Yes.
And now a good lead in the LB Cup category for number 66 Brett Meredith. Sheena Monk running now in 2nd position.
And this battle for that 3rd place, 4th place as it is now in the AM category between Brian Thenis and Martin Barkey is not abating. Now, Thenis will drive the entire race in that number 17 Lamborghini. He is not sharing. And Martin Barkey, who's making a very brave move down the inside. There was a slight touch at 6 on the left rear quarter panel, but Thenis came out of it okay. Barkey had to get himself slowed down, lost a ton of momentum. He will be getting out of the car and handing over that number 67 Lamborghini to Shea Holbrook a little bit later on in the race, so he needs to make his hero move before he gets out of the car. Thenis, no such worry. He's got all day. Shinny Mashimi with a purple Sector 2 time, flying around the track. He's pulled the gap up to half a second again between himself and Trent Hinman. That's enough breathing space.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, you know, if he can extend that margin a little bit, just gives a little bit more of a cushion when he hands over that car for the second half of the race to Brandon Godovic, who's the one of the team principals at PPM, Precision Performance Motorsports.
And another driver with quite a bit of experience in this championship. He was the champion in 2015, second in Pro-Am in 2016, and only did 2 races in the, he did every race last year, but he did them amongst 2 classes, so he didn't score championship points enough to threaten for that honor at the end of the year. And they've started to space themselves out just quite evenly as we go back through the field. Hinman 1 second behind Machini, who is 1 second ahead of Eduardo Piscopo, 1 second ahead of Laura Spinelli, and almost 2 seconds ahead of Corey Lewis. Now, I'm quite surprised that the white number 29 Lamborghini is looming in the back of the picture, because normally that is the car, Jeremy, that we've seen throughout the course of the year. The championship leader in the pro class, it's been featured quite a bit more prominently.
Yeah, certainly. You know, won both of the first 2 races of the season at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, so took the early lead in championship, but they've been pegged back a little bit since then.
Yeah. Watkins Glen with the 4th and a 3rd. That was not as they had planned, but still coming into this weekend with that championship lead. Corey Lewis handing over to Madison Snow when the pit window does open.
That's right, and Change Racing carrying the colours of the Carolinas dealership. There is a dealer championship in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, and the Carolinas leads it by 2 points over Broward dealership, which is represented by P1 Motorsports. So 44 to 42, 44 points to 42 in the battle for the dealer points.
Patrick Liddy in the number 5 Lamborghini is being reeled in ever so slowly by Damon Oakey, but now the blue and yellow highlighter colored Lamborghini of the Canadian just starting to get into more of a groove. The differential between those 2 cars trying to fight it out for the lead of the AM category and 6th place overall has been coming down steadily lap after lap, and Damon Oakey, clearly getting more and more comfortable with this car, has now reached a point where he is putting in personal best sector times as the leaders come across the start-finish line to complete lap number 7 and begin lap number 8. We're about 2 minutes and 40 seconds away from the pit window opening. It's been an interesting season, Jeremy, because it doesn't seem to have that much of a difference if you come and make your pit stop as soon as the window opens, or you wait until the last possible second when it's about to close. Whether it proves to be an advantage or a disadvantage, it's worked out to penalize people when they haven't been able to come into the pit lane because they've saved it too late in the race, and you cannot enter the pit lane if a caution comes out, pit's too close. So there is that factor to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, there's, strategy certainly is important in these races. When you make your pit stop, want to make sure, if you can, you come out in clean air and don't come up behind a slower car. The pit stops, though, they are pretty lengthy. It'll upset the ore out on a racetrack for quite a few laps before it all settles down and before everybody has made their pit stops. But certainly what you want to try and do, and there's been a lot of kind of games played over the last few races, but since the last 2 races at Watkins Glen, the series officials have clamped down. We saw if there is a minimum pit stop time, and that's from pit in to pit out. You come into the pit lane, you start the clock effectively, you make your driver change, you go back out on the track again. There's a minimum pit stop time. If you're underneath that minimum, then you get a penalty. In the past, it's been pretty minimal. For this weekend, if you are less than 1 second below the minimum, then it'll just be 3 times the amount that you were below. That'll be your penalty. So if you're half a second quicker than you should be, you get a 1.5 second penalty. If, however, there's more than a 1 second discrepancy, then you'll get a drive-through penalty, and that'll put you out of contention for the race. And the reason for that is we've seen over the last couple of races some of the teams making strategic short pit stops to leapfrog ahead of somebody on the racetrack and then try and pull away. So the series officials have got wise to that, and they are clamping down, and be a much more stringent penalty now.
So it will be a drive-through if you are more than 1 second below the minimum pit stop time, which for one driver is 99 seconds. For one driver is 102 seconds. For two drivers, it is 99. Somebody's gone off at, I think that's turn 7. Who is that? Cameron Castles? No, it's Randy Solari driving on his own. It's a shame. He's been putting in personal best sector times, clearly feeling more and more comfortable with the car as each lap goes by. And he will make it back around. Yes, he manages to get going again. Didn't hit anything, which is the good news. The car has all 4 wheels pointed in the correct direction. It was turn 6, excuse me, that he spun. But as I said, did manage to continue. So the Prestige Performance guys will be okay with that.
And another Canadian, by the way, Martin Barkey, he just made a move past Brian Thenas on that last lap. So the battle for 9th and 10th and 4th position in AM. Martin Barkey ahead now of Brian Thenas.
Very important message has just come up on the timing screen. The pit window is open, and we have a caller already. That is the number 88. So that is our LB Cup Championship leader coming into this weekend. Mark Proto will be handing over to Paris Mullins. Out on track, though, they are not caring about the pit stops. At least Patrick Liddy will pretend that his radio is malfunctioning. He's having way too much fun in the battle with Damon Oakey for the AM class category lead.
In the meantime, the first two, they've been edging away now from Eduardo Piscopo in car number 50 in the 3rd position. Last couple of laps, it's been about 3/4 of a second margin between the first two and the next two. Piscopo, however, still has his mirrors full of Loris Spinelli in that car number 71.
Mullins got into the car, and as I mentioned before, no service will happen to the cars while they are on the pit lane, aside from tire pressures being checked and the driver change. Sorry, which one was that?
I think number 1 car is in, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Good spot. Jeremy Trenhimden coming onto the pit lane. He will be getting out of that number 1 machine and handing over to Jonathan Cicotto, who is a rookie. And the battle is finally broken up. Patrick Liddy had to acknowledge that his radio wasn't broken. And Damon Oakey takes over the lead of the AM category in his blue and yellow Lamborghini, the number 09 car. So it will be the 5 that will have a driver change. And Ben Albano will be taking over for his first official stint in this 2018 season. It is Madison Snow getting into the 29. That Change Racing Lamborghini is on the pit lane. Corey Lewis pops out and Madison gets in. The 67 Lamborghini is also in. That's Martin Barkey out and Shea Holbrook in. And Brian Thenas has brought the number 17 onto the pit lane as well. So things get kind of frantic. We're seeing a lot of cars coming in as soon as they can to the pit window. We'll have to see how it plays out versus cars that stay for a little bit longer. The 71, no, that's not. The 66 is in. That's Brett Meredith, and Cameron Castles follows him down along the pit lane in the number 33. So right now the timing screen is going to get confusing. Things are going to change. People are going to be out of order, but as Jeremy said, give it some time. It will all shake back out. The important thing to note, Shinji Mishimi has stayed out in the number 46. He leads the pro category from Eduardo Piscopo in the number 50 by 3.5 seconds, a little bit more than that. In Pro-Am, it is Loris Spinelli, who has not yet come into the pit lane, and I would expect that number 71 machine to be waiting until the last possible second. In Am, it's Damon Oakey in the 09, and in LB Cup, it is Sheena Monk in the 7. She has stayed out, and as well as Steve Dunn. Those are the only 2 LB Cup cars who have not yet come into the pit lane. Jonathan Cicotto out of the pits in the number 1 machine. He will be presenting a little bit of traffic just ahead on track of Shinji Mishimi, who stays out for another lap, as does Eduardo Piscopo and Loris Spinelli. This is part of the danger with the pit stops, though, Jeremy, part of why we like this series and we like the challenge of coming onto the pit lane. Car 67 will serve a stop and go penalty, so not only a drive-through, for 11 kilometers per hour over the limit. Now, the car is just now leaving the pit lane. He thinks that was on the way in, so that would be Martin Barkey's fault. It will be Shea Holbrook who comes in to serve the penalty.
Yeah. And those two cars came into the pits, number 67 and number 17, pretty much nose to tail. They leave the same way, but as you say, there's going to be a penalty served for the number 67 car. The three leaders all stay out, though, as does Ryan Hardwick, who is now leading the AM class. The race leader, Shinya Michimi, super consistent. Each of his last 4 laps within a tenth of a second of each other, around a 2 minute and 8 second lap. That is really impressive consistency, hitting his marks all the time, just edging away at the front of the field. Each of the last 4 laps also, he's extended his lead by the better part of 3/4 of a second. It's now 4 seconds between first and then the second and third place battle, number 50 and 71.
Gosh, that's a big difference from just what it was when Hidman, 4/10 of a second, back when the two of them were fighting it out. We've got the number 7 of Sheena Monk on the pit lane, and Damon Oki has also brought his 09 Lamborghini onto the pit lane. So Shinya Michimi continues to lead, yet to make a pit stop, along with Eduardo Piscopo in the 50 and Morris Spinelli in the 71. Ryan Hardwick, as you mentioned, the AM leader, still out on the racetrack, and he's a really interesting person. His grandfather was a NASCAR mechanic, so he's had racing in his blood for a long time. Second in the Lamborghini Cup last year, the LB Cup. That was his foray into motorsports. Decided he liked the championship, so Ryan stayed and moved up 1 class into the AM. He's had a good year so far with 3 wins. The only race he didn't win, he was 4th. That was at Mid-Ohio. Michimi stays out for yet another lap as Hardwick puts in his best lap time, that one through. Michimi stays out, but Piscopo comes in, so that means it is time for Taylor Proto to take over the reins and ride the raging bull that is the number 50. Proto already with a good morning, Jeremy. He put that number 50 machine on the pole position for tomorrow's race. Really stout effort. We've got Ryan Hardwick into the pit lane, and seeing a replay of Madison Snow in the 29, massive drift going through turn 6. He caught it. He didn't drop a wheel on the grass or anything. That was beautiful precision driving from the youngster from Utah. Only 22 years old is Madison, already a champion twice over in the Porsche series. He would like to add Lamborghini to that resume.
He would, wouldn't he? And he's certainly going about it in the right way. See where he emerges after the pit stop. This battle here between number 66 and number 33. They came in just a few seconds. Well, actually, they came in pretty much nose to tail. Left the pits pretty much nose to tail. That's the battle between Brett Meredith and Cameron Castles.
Have to wait and see if Michimi dives into the pit lane this time by, as the pit window is edging closer and closer towards closing. Laura Spinelli still out as well. Taylor Proto just now leaving the pit lane, as is Damon Oki on his outlap. Shea Holbrook coming in having served the penalty is back out on the racetrack. And Steve Dunn is in the pit lane, the debutant in the LB Cup class in the number 47. So he is the penultimate car to pit in that category. No, the final car, because we have already had Sheena Monk in.
So the 09 and number 5, Damon Oki and Ben Albano, they've switched positions after the pit stop because Damon Oki stayed at the wheel of number 09 car, Ben Albano taken over from Patrick Liddy.
It was a 3-second difference in the amount of time that they needed to spend on the pit lane, and the gap between those two, 0.6 of a second right now. So made a difference switching the driver.
Yeah, and both of our leaders now onto pit lane, 46 and a number 71.
So when they re-emerge, it'll be Godovic and Perez in the 46 and 71 respectively. Good battle between Meredith and Castles going on, even though it's not for class position, it is for track position, and they are fighting for the 11th position as it is right now. Seeing the exact same message pop up on the screen, Jeremy. I don't know if car 67 sped again on the pit lane and was 11 over again, because the message did disappear, and I thought I saw the 67 already come in and serve its penalty.
What row?
I'm wondering if maybe their pit lane limiter is set to exactly 11 kph over.
Oops.
That would be not good. I'll keep an eye out for that car and see if the black and blue Lamborghini comes back into the pit lane one more time. Hopefully it's just a computer glitch. Jonathan Cicotto is the first of the cars who has already served a pit lane, whose timing screen has rightfully sorted out, crosses the line in front of Jeremy and myself now. Then is the 50 of Taylor Proto, the blue and black Lamborghini. Then Madison Snow is the next car to come by us, and the 29, the white Lamborghini with the gold bull on the side. Already 2 times a winner this year is that number 29 Lamborghini. And who comes up the hill now? Damon Oakey, barely ahead of Ben Albano, the 09 from the 5. That's going to be a battle we're going to want to watch for the rest of this one, as it's still Oakey ahead as they go into turn 1, but for how much longer is the question, because Albano, having taken a little bit of time to get himself up to speed and up to grips with the car, now has it all under control and wants that position back of the AM lead. When his car came into the pit lane, it had the number 1 provisionally next to it. It went away, and it was that Canadian guy who's just in front of him who stole it away from the young Californian. Damon Oakey with one of the best liveries I could imagine on a Lamborghini. The 2 stripes on the hood, just like fangs of a snake. They are the bull horns that you get from the Lamborghini, a very vivid image as Oakey pulls slightly ahead, and the pit window is now closed.
That's fine, because everybody has made their mandatory pit stop. No problems there. Here's the 67 car, so it was a second penalty, this time for Shea Holbrook.
Oh gosh. I think if I'm the team, I'm on the radio saying drag the brakes. Although there was an additional thing sent out, an additional notice sent out saying if you are trying to fudge the system by taking too long, but by changing your speed on the pit lane, that will also be a drive-through penalty. That was more in terms of when you are trying to hit that magic number of 102 seconds or 99 seconds for the delta of time needed for the minimum pit stop time. But I think they would be a bit more forgiving as, yep, Shea Holbrook stopped in the pit box, and now she's been cleared to go again. So hopefully that's the last time we see that car on the pit lane. Yeah,
and we just had the leaders come past, and Brandon Godovic is just ahead of Jonathan Cicotto. So those two remain the same positions as they were before the pit stops. You remember, before the number 1 car was the first to peel off into pit lane. They were pretty much nose to tail before that. Well, there's 1.2 seconds between them now, which is not much more than that. So a good pit stops for both of those two.
67 now issued a warning, a slow pit exit during the window. So what I was just talking about, the varying of the pit speed, that's what that issue was. Car number 71 is back onto the pit lane. That is JC Perez. And what is going on with him? Is there a tire issue on the car? Just waiting to see the far side. It looks like maybe something wrong with the right rear of that machine. That was our Pro-Am leader and had been running as high as 4th overall early on when Laura Spinelli was in with the car, and they do have that tire lug nut secure, ready to go, so perhaps they will be taking one of the Pirellis off of the car. Hate to see this, because that was such a strong car, not only running for the win, they were very well set for the Pro-Am win, but they are in line for the Pro-Am championship. The good news for them, at least, second in that category is Patrick Liddy, and he is no longer running in the Pro-Am class, so even if they come away with second place points for the weekend, it's not the end of the world. That is the upside, but for JC Perez and Laura Spinelli, they will have wanted a win from this weekend, not just a finish. Ben Albano still looking for a way, hunting Damon Oakey, trying desperately to get around for the AM lead. Damon Oakey is looking really solid though, Jeremy. The Canadian is holding stout in position. He didn't run in the series in 2017, but he's been a fairly regular to the series, and he's also done quite a bit of racing with an Italian mark. He's been a championship over in Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell. He's been running in Lamborghinis since about 2014, though. Really found a home here and enjoyed it as another pit lane speed violation +7 for car number 67. Clearly their pit lane speed limiter is not working. And car 50, this is major. The car number 50, which is Taylor Proto and Eduardo Piscopo, currently running in third, was short on their pit stop. They are being added 0.06 of a second.
Well, I think they were 0.06, not 0.06, 0.6 short. So it'll be 3 times that, won't it?
But it says plus, not minus. So I would say if they were short, then they were minus. Yeah,
okay,
maybe
enough.
it was 0.2 of a second short.
Well done.
And they've had 0.6 added to their time, which, and yep, plus 0.6 second. So that is their penalty, 0.6 of a second added to their time. The good news for them, they are 4.3 seconds ahead of Madison Snow. In 4th place is Madison for that 3rd position. So Taylor Proto not right now worrying about that, but he is about less than a second. Oh, and a big crash for Steve Dunn as he's gone off hard. This is going to be a full course caution with just under 15 minutes to go. The double yellows are being readied on the starter's stand, and somebody else comes off through the grass and nearly collects him as well. Glad that that was avoided. And yeah, full course caution is out. That was quite inevitable, do have to say. I think that was Jonathan Cicotto who almost hit him head on, Jeremy. Just looking at the position of the cars where they were, Cicotto came through the grass, aimed at Steve Dunn's car, but did manage to get it pulled back onto the hard standing.
I wouldn't think it was Cicotto.
Yep. Car 1 at turn 11 was off driver's left. That was Cicotto. But Steve Dunn, in any case, had already had his incident, so there might be something on the racetrack that pulled the number 1 off of the hard standing. Oh. Here's... Oh, good grief. Steve Dunn lost it very early, well before the kink. Went off driver's left, speared back across.
You lost it going through the kink, through the right-hander there, and that was then he speared across the road. That was a heavy impact. That's pretty much the same we saw from the Porsche race earlier today.
See?
Yeah.
Cicotto was very fortunate to regain control of the car, but he went off driver's left, speared back across. Big hits to both sides of that number 47.
Okay.
Yeah, it is car 47 that was stopped out on track. Car 1 with a moment managed to recover. So Gdovic leads.
I would have thought number 1 car was anywhere near, to be perfectly honest, number 47 car.
I think they had just lapped him. They had just passed Steve Dunn. Remember, he had that spin at 14 and was well down the timing charts before the pit stop cycle began. But there's extreme caution being warned through turn 11, so I would imagine shards of carbon fiber all over the racetrack. That is a driver's worst nightmare, because when there are bits of carbon around, that can mean punctures. And this is a very high-speed circuit. You don't want a chance of something going wrong when you're either coming out of 14 going up the hill, anywhere around this track. You don't want to take a chance. Here's another instance for Jeremy and myself to see what happened, and it was a big sideways hit for Steve Dunn. Again, what was looking like such a promising weekend. See, there goes Oki.
Yeah,
no,
that's the 21 car.
That's the 21 car.
Yeah, it was the.
So there's Mashimi going through the site, and then Cicotto had gone off very far off.
Yeah, and what's weird about that is, I mean, they were a long way behind, so the yellows would have already been out, and clearly it looked there the number 46 car was well ahead of number 1, and they had been pretty much nose to tail, so that's what confused me there, certainly.
Best news that we could possibly say, Steve Dunn is out of that damaged car, walking over toward the safety vehicles. He is unaided, still has his helmet on, now he's taking it off, so we have a driver. That is the best news that we could possibly give you. I don't know, Jeremy, that we're going to be seeing that 47 Lamborghini again this weekend, though. It's quite damaged.
Hit the right-hand side, the wall on the right-hand side of the track there really quite heavily. He didn't pretty much head on, because he went off on the left-hand side of the car, then tried to regain control, kind of overcorrected, and the car then slewed across the track and made very heavy contact with the wall on the right, and then rebounded across the track again. And yeah, that was a very frightening moment there for Steve Dunn, and you know, this is, I mean, these cars are daunting enough to make your race debut in, or your major race debut in, and particularly a track like Road America. These are brave people, I can tell you that.
Yes. Well, and with just under 11 minutes to go, all cars are being told to pack up behind the safety car, being encouraged. It's a lot safer for the officials out there to go out and clean up and try and get rid of this car as quickly as we can to get back to racing, because we do have a race on our hands. It is Brandon Godovic who leads in the number 46 machine, having taken over from Shinya Mishimi. Jonathan Chicotto is in second in the number 1 machine, having received his driving duties from Trent Hinman. And Taylor Proto in third, ahead of Madison Snow in fourth. This does make the penalty for the 50 more relevant, though, Jeremy, because it was 0.6 of a second added on to the time of the 50. And now he's not 0.6 of a second ahead of Madison Snow. At least he won't be on the restart.
No, he won't. So that'll certainly make for an interesting battle to see how that unfolds once we get back. Hopefully we'll get back to green. The car's already been, well, is being lifted onto the flatbed.
Well, with just under 10 minutes, I think we can. I believe in our hardworking marshals and our safety team out here at Road America. In the AM class, it is Damon Oakey in the 09, leading Ben Albano in the 5, and they are just ahead of Ryan Hardwick in the number 2. So a good battle there as well. In LB Cup, it's Brett Meredith, who has a 1-car gap between himself, Sheena Monk, Paris Mullins back in second and third, and JC Perez, who came into the pit lane with that issue a bit earlier on in the number 71. Pro-Am still the leader, but Stephen McAleer is now 3 cars separated between himself and JC.
Yeah, but he's a lap down.
No, he's not.
Well, he was a lap down.
Just crossing the start-finish line as they were coming through. Let's see. Got to wait for everything to cycle back out. Oh, you must be right, Jeremy.
Yeah, number 10 car was a lap down.
So
number
not a
10
concern
and the
then.
67.
Yeah, not a
both
concern
a lap down.
Well, the 67 from making frequent pit
Exactly,
lane
yeah.
belt visits.
3 extra visits to the pit lane, I think, weren't there?
Oops.
Yep.
Yeah, the 11 kilometers an hour over speeding, and then 11 kilometers an hour over speeding, and then 7 kilometers an hour.
So getting
over
closer at least towards the end, but still no Seagar.
No.
And instead of drive-through.
Hopefully they'll fix that before the race tomorrow. Brandon Godovic is not going to be happy with this full course caution unless it goes all the way to the end and they just have to throw the checkered flag. Because if you get a Jonathan Chicotto, a Taylor Proto, and a Madison Snow behind you who all realize that a race win is attainable, that's a dangerous equation.
Yeah, but certainly, I mean, all of these guys, for Brandon Godovic, yeah, you're right. This is particularly significant because he is still chasing his first overall win. He's finished second on 3 occasions, including at Mid-Ohio early this season and a couple last year, previous at Road America and Valencia in the World Finals. But he's still looking for his first overall victory, and he'd certainly dearly love it to come today. You know, he'd been battling with Jonathan Chicotto, who's won races in Europe in these cars, and also won last time out with Trent Hinman in the second race at Watkins Glen as well. So, you know, they're all used to winning overall, except for Brandon Godovic.
Round of applause for the safety crew and for the tow truck driver. That guy was hauling, literally, not just a broken Lamborghini. He was going very, very quickly. And the lights have been given the outage signal on the safety car. We are going back to green.
Thanks.
Yeah, so the safety car driver will pull away from the field, coming through the carousel now. That's got to be so much fun, even in the street car, Jeremy. I would love to do that.
Yeah, that's pretty fast street car, isn't it? And, yeah, and the safety car driver will be keeping eyes open here as they come through the kink, just to make sure there's no other debris left on the racetrack, because that was a big accident for that number 47 car, and it spun across the racetrack twice.
Yeah.
So there was an opportunity there, 2 opportunities for debris to be left out there, and but the track workers here just done a fantastic job of cleaning up that debris.
The teams will also be giving a reminder to their drivers, you don't want to drop a wheel in the kink to begin with, but remember if you do, there might be carbon shards there, so you might get a puncture. So really don't drop a wheel through the kink. Don't go for that pass in the grass like we've seen done maybe earlier this weekend. But yeah, a lot of, not clag, that's not clag, that is carbon shards on the track.
Well, it's a bit of both, a bit of everything down there.
Machini. Teammate Brandon Gdovic taking over the 46, leading the field as they come through Canada corner. The safety car has pulled away and the field is under the control of Brandon. He was weaving violently back and forth.
So both Brandon and the PPM team looking for its first victories in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. We're going to have a little bit over 5 minutes remaining.
Oh boy, 3 laps. 3 laps for the cash. That's enough time to let somebody pass you, to get back by them again, to have a good battle. And I think we're going to have that on our hands. Taylor Proto looking for a bit of a jump start as he pulls back a bit from Jonathan Cicotto, but it didn't work because the green flag is out. We are racing once again at Road America in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Series, round 5 of the championship. Brandon Gdovic leads with just under 5 minutes to go. Jonathan Cicotto second. Taylor Proto third, Madison Snow in 4th. Those are the 4 guys fighting it out for the pro victory. And in AM, Damon Oakey with a good jump from Ben Albano. Ryan Hardwick is in 3rd position. LB Cup, Brett Meredith in the picture. So we've gone back to green, and 16 Lamborghinis are running line astern. And there's not very much time separating all of them, Jeremy. It was about 7 seconds as they crossed the line.
Yeah, it was tight. And that battle for the AM category between the 0, 9, the 5, the number 2, the 17 and 33, they're all pretty much nose to tail. But the 09 and the 5, they changed positions during the round of pit stops. The number 09 car stayed out a couple of laps longer before it made its pits. Well, actually just 1 lap longer. But when it came out of the pits, it was ahead, and that was the crucial difference there between those two, battling for the AM class in 5th and 6th overall. Number 5 car trying to get past Damon Oakey, not able to make that stick.
No, and now he finds himself in the sight line of Ryan Hardwick. So Ben Albano looks for the lead, and no, it's actually Stephen McAleer who's trying to get a lap back. So a little bit of grace that there are 2 lap cars behind Albano before Ryan Hardwick's Lamborghini. So the position of 2nd for now is safe in the M class.
That's correct, because that battle behind number 5 car, there is a battle for position for 15th place, 1 lap down between Stephen McAleer and Shea Holbrook.
And they will both be fighting it out, wanting to enjoy the Lamborghinis that they are driving to the fullest extent possible. Brandon Gdovic with a half-second lead, and there is a spin in the kink again. This has been the danger zone. Caution is out. Was that Taylor Proto?
I think it is.
Oh my goodness, the car that was in 3rd place overall, and oh no, Madison Snow. Madison Snow is off driver's left in the kink. Championship implications here.
Yeah, very much
no, it's
so.
not Madison Snow. Oh, the number white. What car is that? The 71. Is that? No, that's not JC Perez. 17, Brian Thenis. It's Brian Thenis, who, again, championship implications in the AM class, but we are under caution. And 71 is also off, so that is JC Perez a bit further up. Thenis, who climbed out the passenger side of his car because the driver's side door was wedged up against the guardrail. There is damage to the left side of the 71 as well, as Thenis is driving down towards Perez. He's got his helmet in hand. The body language is not great between these 2 guys, and thankfully a safety crew is there, hopefully to diffuse the tension, not only to make sure that the cars are okay, as the officials get out of the truck and they're looking to the driver, giving him a thumbs up. He's not giving them a thumbs up, even though he's walking. Clearly, he's physically okay, but he is mentally not. The 2 of them are quite fired up. White flag is being shown on the timing stand as JC Perez and Brian Thenis having words. I
that's
think
unnecessary. Number 17 car was well ahead of number 71, so there was a couple of cars between them. I can understand the frustration for both of them, but Brian Thenis there clearly got a bit of a talking to from Perez, and that was completely unwarranted, not necessary at all from JC Perez.
Ooh, I don't know that I would put both of them in the back of a pickup truck together.
No, I think I might separate this. Have a look at see what happened.
It started very early before they even got to the kink. So at the exit of the carousel.
And there's Cam
Cameron.
Castles. He sort of spins in avoidance, and boy, there's some good avoidances. What's interesting there is when they came into view, they were pretty much side by side. So I'm not sure whether Perez was trying to make it. I mean, when they came
trying
past,
to make it dive down the inside.
well, exactly. But he'd been 2 cars behind him when they came past here. So I'm not quite sure how it was even that close. I think maybe Perez had just kind of dived for the inside going into the kink. There's more to this story than meets the eye, Shay, that's for sure.
And Brian Thenis has been taken out of the red pickup truck and is being walked over into one of the Cayenne safety vehicles. It is the final lap. Brandon Godovic ahead of Johnny Cicotto and then Taylor Proto. Madison Snow in 4th. We'll have to see when the cars actually do come across the start-finish line who is where, because we haven't yet seen that, Jeremy, to verify. We know that the 46 is our leader. Brandon Godovic, should he make it back around to see the checkered flag, I'm not going to give anything to him yet. I'm not going to jinx him, because then a giant pink fluffy cat would come out across the circuit and knock his car off. So not going to give the win before he's actually seen the checkered flag. But as you said, it would be his first overall win as well as the team. So it would be a very meaningful victory. Unfortunate that it would have to come under the double yellow flag.
Oh, no, he won't mind that at all, trust me. This is his 40th start in a Lamborghini Super Trofeo for Brandon Godovic, formerly a NASCAR driver. He had an opportunity to drive a few road course events there, absolutely loved them. Then he set his sights here on a Lamborghini Super Trofeo. He and his father set up the PPM team, Precision Performance Motorsports, over the winter. We've got big plans for the future for that team, and what a breakthrough this will be for that organization, based in Virginia. And it's been a bit of a long road for Brandon, but he was in 2015 he was a world AM champion in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, and now looking for his first overall victory.
So Brandon Godovic, Jonathan Cicotto, and Trent Hinman, Brandon Godovic sharing with Shinny Machini, Taylor Proto and Eduardo Piscopo bringing it home in 3rd in the number 50. And then our championship leaders coming into this weekend, Madison Snow and Corey Lewis in the 29 will finish 4th. This is going to be quite a major shakeup.
Wait a minute. Yeah, in fact, Brandon Godovic and Shinya Machimi are going to vault from 3rd in the points, I reckon, unofficially, to 1st, 2 points ahead of both Corey Lewis and Madison Snow and Eduardo Piscopo and Taylor Proto.
Oh my goodness. Here it is. Here is the checkered flag for Brandon Godovic, Shinya Mashimi, and PPM Motorsports, the first overall win for 2 of those 3. Congratulations to the whole 46 team. A very well-deserved and well-fought battle for the lead. It was Mashimi who did the heavy lifting in the beginning of the race, fighting it out against Trent Hinman, who ultimately finishes in 2nd with Jonathan Cicotto in that number 1 machine.
But wait a minute, there was a penalty to the number 50 car, wasn't there? 0.6 of a second. I'm not sure whether that has been added to the scoring or not. I fancy it probably hasn't.
Yes. We'll have to wait and find out about the 3rd position.
And that's crucial in terms of the
Yes.
championship, in actual fact.
Damon Oakey wins in the AM class, so that pit stop proved to be very pivotal, as Ben Albano and Patrick Liddy will come home 2nd in the number 5 machine, and Ryan Hardwick in the AM class gets 3rd, as something just changed on the timing screen. And Jeremy, it is that penalty being added. So Madison Snow and Corey Lewis in the 29 coming home 3rd, not on the track, but because of that short pit stop for the 50, it does affect things, and it means that our championship leaders coming into this weekend are
tie between Brandon Godovic and Shinya Machimi and Corey Lewis and Madison Snow. And on the tiebreaker, Lewis and Snow have already got 2 wins to the 1 of Godovic and Machimi, but they will be tied on points heading into tomorrow's race. And Piscopo and Proto, they will be 4 points back in the 3rd position.
Well, and congratulations to Brett Meredith, who makes it 3 for 3, does he not, coming into this championship in the number 66, running in the LB Cup. Brett Meredith making his debut at Watkins Glen. He got a 2nd in the first race, a win at the 2nd race in Watkins Glen. So 3 races, 3 finishes of 2nd or better, including 2 wins. Very impressed with Brett Meredith and GMG Racing. And
I'll tell you what, wait a minute, I lied, because Machimi got the pole position.
Yes.
That is worth a point this season. So they will have a 1-point lead, I beg your pardon. So 59 to 58 then. in favour now of Godovic and Machimi over
Wow.
Lewis and Snow.
This makes tomorrow's race even more interesting than it already was, especially given the qualifying we saw this morning. I was already exciting. And in Pro-Am, congratulations, because guess what? Stephen McAleer and Randy Solari get the win since they finish. That's going to do it from us here. Lamborghini Super Trofeo Series, race number 5 of the season, race 1 from Road America. Congratulations to PPM, Brandon Godovic, and Shinya Mashimi. Thank you for giving us so much entertainment, drivers out on track. We'll see you back here tomorrow.